Hey there, it's Jason. It's mid-June and I'm on summer vacation, and I've been really enjoying walking through my orchard at different times of the day, whereas normally I'd be at work and I wouldn't have the opportunity to come out here in the early morning and take a stroll through. So on today's walk through, I wanted to bring my camera with me and show you some of the things that are happening in my orchard. Before we even get into the orchard, I want to share with you some of the things that are happening outside of the orchard. My entranceway behind me here was initially my main entrance. I actually don't use it as much. I use the entrance next to my shed a little bit more frequently, but I have really dressed up this main entrance. I have bougainvillea growing up out of huge pots on the right and left side, and then just this year they connected up here at the top of the gate where I built this trellised entranceway. Flanking it on either side are blue java or ice cream bananas. When I bought them, they were only about a foot off the ground, and they are hopefully going to fruit for me this year. If I pan this way, you'll see a couple other smaller banana varieties that are in a similar situation. I'll get a closer look at those in a few moments, but they are going to grow and pop up and create this wall of bananas from my barn all the way to this main entrance right here. Also outside the orchard is my native garden. These were just tiny little 1-gallon plants when I put them in the ground. This was a recently tiered area of my garden. This used to be a slope that is now retained. It's a 2-step retaining wall, and the top level has natives. This is a thriving ecosystem for me. There's a lot of bees and butterflies, a lot of lizards, and even most recently a garter snake that came through. So I'm really excited. This creates a nice little green wall, and it creates a separation between the barn shed that I have there in the background that you can see peeking through, and this grassy area where I allow my kids to play. A couple other things to note here. On the far side here, if I spin around, is my citrus row. This is sort of a neglected area of my orchard. I really need to turn my attention towards the citrus, but it's just always on the back burner. So I haven't really spotlighted that area of my yard as frequently as maybe the orchard proper, but I do have about a dozen varieties of citrus growing over there. So let's go ahead, let's take a walk into the orchard. I'm going to bring you through and along the barn where I have some passion fruit growing on the side. So as I come down the hill here, I have plans right here, and I'm staging some materials to build a potting bench. And I'm also going to build up and create a fence that I will allow kiwi to climb on. So right here I have a mulberry tree, and that thing is just exploding. It's huge. Again, it was in a small, maybe 5-gallon, not even 5-gallon pot when I first purchased it. It's now taller than I can reach, and I'm going to have to continue to hack away at this thing to keep it a manageable height. That's about probably 15 feet up at this point, and it's only June. So that will add some height before the end of the season. So this is kind of a messy area. I'm going to do a potting bench right here. I have some concrete slabs that I had left over from the prior owner, and I'm going to build out a framework that I could put those slabs on top of. So a little junky, but that's okay. It's a work in progress. I have what I call my barn, because I have my chickens here in the back window. This is my favorite entrance into the orchard. I've really dressed it up. I've got my Asian pears growing over here on the left. I've got passion fruit growing up on the trellis here. So you can see why this isn't necessarily the main entrance, but it's my preferred entrance. I just love walking down here. And I hope that this view through my camera captures some of the magic that's happening here, with passion fruit up above, Asian pears on the left, and then my favorite, this custom little sign here, just for fun, Fletcher Farm. All right, so here we go. Let's go take a walk inside. The part that I'm entering right now, this is the newer part of my orchard. You can see the trees are a little bit smaller. I have a lychee that is not thriving there, and I tried shade cloth. I've tried a variety of things, and I can't seem to get the new growth to stick, and the old growth burns pretty easily, and I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do here. I need to figure out how to grow lychee, because I am not doing it successfully. I also have some mango seedlings here that I plan to graft onto. They're a little bit on the smaller side. I got them from Home Depot. They were only about 30 bucks. And again, the full purpose there was to add some grafts and add some different mango varieties. I do have a mango that I purchased straight up from a nursery right there. That's a little bit older, a little gangly looking, but it is flowering and producing fruit, although I have been knocking the fruit off because the tree is a little too young in my opinion. Over here, I have my dragon fruit. I have 3 pots with 12 different varieties, or maybe 10 different varieties. I think I have a couple yellow. I like the yellow variety, so I have a couple yellow dragon fruit here. So it's not quite 12 varieties, but I have 12 dragon fruits in the pot. Something to note here, if you're going with this wooden trellis, the weight of the dragon fruit is really heavy. Do not underestimate the weight of all of these branches. Over here, you can see I've got quite a bit of growth going here, going south. And I was rotating the pots, but the roots are growing through the pots, and I have hesitated to do that because I'd be breaking those roots and possibly setting the dragon fruit back a little bit. So I had to cut this 4x4 and screw it in to help support this top part that was starting to bend under the weight of all this dragon fruit. So just a heads up, if you do go with this wooden trellis, which is really, really popular, I would, right off the bat, if I was to ever do this again, I would put these supports in at the very beginning so that my dragon fruit can go around it. Luckily for me, there was no dragon fruit branches in the way, so I was able to just screw that in pretty easily. But had I needed to attach it, say here, you'd see I've got 1, 2 dragon fruit in the way. It wouldn't have been as easy. So again, recommendation for my dragon fruit growers, put these supports in from the very beginning, or maybe come up with a completely different design that doesn't rely on those. Over here I have my compost bin, which is in the works. I'm using some old pallets that I had laying around. I will have a second bin right here as soon as I get the right size pallets. I've got some guava. I've got some black sapote over here. These are growing, although not producing fruit. The guava has little fruit on it. They're very young, but hopefully maybe by the fall or winter I'll have some guava. Black sapote is flowering, but none of the flowers are sticking. I am so excited when this eventually does fruit. That black sapote is one of my favorite, and it is one of the lesser known fruit out there that can grow in San Diego, and I can't wait to get some fruit off of this. So I have to be patient, but signs are looking good. I have my 4-in-1 pear tree. This was a story that I've featured in the past here, where I actually had the scions first before I had the tree, and then I had to go back and buy the tree to put the scions onto, but that's okay. I kind of did that one backwards. So this is sort of an afterthought tree. I did recently move it. It was on the other side of my orchard. It was all the way over there in that back corner, but I had to move it to make room for some ever-growing plum and pluot trees, so it found a home right over here. It has an upright growth habit, as most pears do, so I was okay putting it here and not worrying so much about crowding out some of the things that are also growing around here. All right, let's go ahead. Let's take a pause here. Let's go to another section of the orchard. All right, so I'm back at the gate again. I'm back up top, and I'm coming in. Instead of going down and walking along the mangoes, I'm coming here and looking at my nectarines. This is Arctic Star. I recently harvested all of Arctic Star off of here. I love Arctic Star. It's one of my favorite fruits. And it was a surprise hit last year, and I let this thing fruit. I thinned it very little because I wanted as much fruit as possible because I wanted to share it with others. They ended up being about cue ball or billiard ball size, so they were a little on the smaller side this year, but that's okay. I had plenty to share. Next to it is a 3-in-1 nectarine. The original variety that was grafted on here is doing very well, and I have some new grafts down here at the bottom. So I'm going to be doing some modifications to this tree to make it a true 3-in-1 rather than a single graft with like 2 afterthought grafts. I'm going to turn this into a true 3-in-1 where I have 3 scaffolding branches coming out of the bottom. Next to it, I have my 6-in-1 pomegranate. I am testing out all the different pomegranate varieties that I can get my hands on. For example, right here in the foreground, if I can find it, here we go. This is Parfianca. It's grafted onto the main variety, which is wonderful. And then around the west and south side of the pomegranate tree, I have 4 other varieties. I do have a few citrus trees over here. This is one of my other citrus rows along the fence line. My variegated lemon is not really thriving. I've put a cage around it because my chickens keep scratching at the dirt and upsetting the roots. So I do have some of my trees caged in just to keep the chickens back a little bit. I have some massive citrus trees that are a part of the more established part of the orchard. These were trees that were here when I moved in. This is a Valencia. Next to it, nestled here in this little corner, is my bee box. I need to open that up and check it out real soon to make sure that there's no crossing of the combs in between the frames. So I'll be getting in there real soon within the next couple days. We've got a heat wave coming, so I'm going to have to do it early on in the morning so I'm not out here with a bee suit in 90-degree weather. Here's my bougainvillea from the inside. You can see it just came up and connected up there at the top, creating one seamless piece. This is a multi-grafted bougainvillea. You can see it has the red and the pink, or the red and the purple, and I like that touch, right? It just adds a little bit of variety. I have some additional citrus here. These are my satsumas and my mandarins. This is where I bring my kids when we come and pick oranges in the winter, because these are the small ones that they can grab off the tree and sit down right over here on the steps and peel them and eat right on the spot. So this is one of my favorite spots, but this is a wintertime activity. I have a variety of avocados. I have 5 that are currently back here in the orchard. And now that we've been here for a number of years, we are noticing some alternative bearing habits here, particularly here with this tree. This is one of the years that we will be getting fruit off of this, but last year we got very little fruit. This is what I think is a Haas, although none of these were labeled, so really I can say it's Haas or Haas-like, but I can't say for sure exactly what kind it is, as there's so many different varieties. What's really cool is this one is going to fruit for me this year, and then this one over here fruited last year, so I'm actually pulling avocados off of this right now. So it's great to have them bearing alternatively so that I can get avocados all year, but not necessarily from all of my trees at once. This here is fruiting or flowering this year. It's what I believe to be a fuerte, or fuerte-like. Again, none of these were labeled. And if I get a little bit closer over here, particularly over on the east side of the tree, you'll see that we do have some little baby avocados growing there. So these trees have already flowered, and they are getting ready to pump out some little avocados for me. Next to the avocados, I've got this jungle going that is only going to get more and more dense as the years go on. This is my newer but somewhat more established part of the orchard. I have 1, 2, 3 jujubes right here. It's a modified 3-in-1 planting. So I have GA866, which is my personal favorite. That's the south-facing one. And then I have Li and Lang. I've tried grafting a few different varieties. I have not been successful with jujube grafts. This was sugarcane. It failed. I'll have to try again next year. This is my second attempt at grafting jujubes, and I just haven't found the trick yet. It's not as straightforward as maybe some stone fruit. So if you got any tips on how to graft jujubes, let me know, because I am not good at it. Over here, in between, I have 2 apiariums. Again, this is sort of a 2-in-1 planting where they're both side by side, and I have, I think, what is Flavor Delight or something Delight, and then I have Cotton Candy over here. This one on the left is ready to harvest now. You can see actually some of the apiariums are turning that orange color, which is an indication that they're ready. Sometimes they just fall off right in my hand. Cotton Candy will ripen a few weeks to a month later, which is great. It extends the harvesting season. So over here I have apricots, a 4-in-1 peach, early ripening peaches here. All but one variety has been harvested off of here. And then underneath the apricots, thriving over there in that corner, is a 2-in-1 cherry plum tree, which I'm really excited about. Hopefully next year I'll get my very first cherry plums. Let's go ahead and explore another corner of the orchard. All right, so I'm walking west, coming out of these stone fruit trees, and I'm next to a Saturn or Stark Saturn or donut peach tree that has been attacked pretty bad by aphids. The new growth is starting to come in and cover up the old crinkled leaves, but you can still see some of the damage there that was done earlier on in the season. I've done a little bit of spraying over here to stop the infestation, but luckily for me, lady beetle larvae and lady beetles themselves have moved in and become my natural remedy here and have taken care of a variety of the pest problems. I have my 2 persimmon trees that I'm really excited about. This is Hychia, and onto Hychia I have grafted the other astringent variety, which is, I believe, chocolate. I always get these mixed up, but here's my chocolate graft. It has not produced any fruit for me, although it flowered profusely. None of the flowers took, and that's because it requires cross-pollination. So I guess it just wasn't the right time for chocolate. Over here I have my Fuyu, and then grafted onto that is the coffee cake variety. Interestingly enough, coffee cake did fruit. So figure that out. They require cross-pollination. Here I'm trying to zoom in on my graft So here's the graft there in the background, and up right here is this second non-astringent persimmon variety. So again, these fruited right here, but my other variety, which requires cross-pollination, did not fruit. So something got pollinated correctly, but the other one did not. This tree right here, it's gotten a little long and stringy and droopy, and I've tried supporting it up. I'm gonna have to do something with this tree because it's the weight of the fruit and the weight of the branches are threatening to snap some of the branches. So if it doesn't have the most desired shape, know that this is a work in progress. Over here, we've got an August Pride peach. This is one of my newer varieties that will help extend the peach ripening or peach season here. You can see those peaches still have maybe another 3, 4, 5 weeks to go before they are ready. So let's go back through my little forest over here. This area makes me happy. I love ducking in and out of these branches. And let's go ahead and pop out the other side where I've got the majority of my plums and pluots. I have another avocado over here. Hasn't done a whole lot for me. I believe it's another Haas variety. I've only gotten maybe 4 or 5 avocados off of it. So this guy, if it doesn't start performing soon, might be on the chopping block, or I might have to figure out what's happening here. It's a very well-established tree, but it produces very little fruit for its size. I have 4 fig trees in the ground. I don't think all 4 are going to make it, but I am sort of doing a taste test here. I have VDB or Violet de Bordeaux right here in the foreground. I have a type of Chicago hardy fig called Hoboken here. I have another variety that I am not too fond of back there. I'll have to put it in the comments section or put a little caption underneath. The name slips my mind right now. And then I have the tiger fig or the panache fig back here with those beautiful stripes, those variegations. All right, so as we swing around, I've got my 3 cherry trees there. Mini Royal is the largest. The height of the cherries, that's all Mini Royal up there. Royal Lee is over on the left-hand side, which is the second most vigorous, and then the one in the foreground, the one that I've been sort of knocking on this whole time here in some of my other videos, is Royal Crimson, which its days may be numbered here in my orchard because it's just not thriving, it's not producing. I have a bunch of apples that are espaliered along the fence, Anna being the one that is being the most prolific for me, maybe even a little too prolific, but this is pretty typical of Anna. The apples get big, they put out a lot of apples, and they're ripe mid to late June. So these will be ready to come off the tree very soon. And then I have King David, which was late to wake up, so it's hasn't fully filled in yet, but King David is a later ripening apple that will hopefully give me apples sometime around November, maybe even December. I do have a pluary here. It's a multi-grafted pluary. Don't tell anybody that I have multiple grafts on a pluary tree, but the candy heart is starting to turn red, and you can see some other evidence of that down here. Candy heart has that conical bottom to it, kind of a distinct shape. You can see some red blush starting to form, so these are starting to come into season maybe in the next couple weeks. And then next to it, I have a variety of plums and pluots. So let's give a shout out to the Weeping Santa Rosa here in the background on my fence. The weeping variety lends itself well to this style. So that's my pollinator, that's along the fence line. And then next to it, I have 3 pluots. So I have Emerald Drop with a few grafts on it. I have Flavor Grenade with a few grafts on it. And then I have Flavor King with 1 graft on it. So all total, I think I have close to a dozen plum and pluot and pluary varieties growing on just a few rootstocks here. So these guys are going to need a little bit more time. Plums and pluots tend to ripen up later in the summer season, but you can see here, Flavor Grenade coming along nicely. Still green, although they're getting close to the right size that I would expect for a pluot tree. Emerald Drop was one of my favorite last year. It did not get picked apart by birds. I think the green skinned color helped protect it. It helped blend it into the foliage a little bit. And it was one of the trees that gave me the most fruit because the birds and the other critters were not able to find it as easily as some of the other ones that ripen up to take on more of a red or purple color. Here in the shade over here, my chickens love to hang out and scratch and find worms and bugs. Just a little side note here, as I've been focusing mostly on the trees, if you do look down at the ground, you'll see everything is mulched. This was new for me here. When we moved in, this was bare dirt and it was hard as a rock. And when I went to plant these trees, I had to use a pickaxe to get the holes dug. That's not the case any longer. The soil is much healthier. It still has a ways to go to recuperate from those days of barren dirt, but the mulch that I have here has invigorated the sort of the ecosystem here. We've got a lot of bugs and worms, and obviously the soil is healthier, it's more nutritious for the plants, but my chickens, the majority of their food comes right here from the ground. And I know this because when I first moved in, I know how much food I used to buy for those chickens, and I would go through 4 50-pound bags in maybe 3 months, 4 months. Now that same amount of food lasts me twice, maybe 3 times as long. And so I know the chickens are still eating. They're healthy. They're still the same size, but they're finding their food from the yard. So this is a step towards a more sustainable orchard and a more sustainable way of living here. And it's a small little effort, right? The mulch benefits the trees. It benefits the chickens. It's going to help with water retention, so it helps save water. But you can see here as I part the mulch here, you see it goes down several inches before we get down to the dirt. These were all wood chips at one point. This ground was hard as a rock. Now you can see just with my fingers here, I can actually start to dig a hole here in the soil. So this is all good stuff, good signs here for the health of the orchard. And I hope you enjoyed this walk around. If you have any questions or if you have any thoughts about what I'm doing out here, I'd love to chat with you about that in the comments section. I always enjoy those types of interactions. So go ahead, leave me a comment if anything here in this video caught your attention. Thank you so much.